Welcome to the shop. My name is Rachel Gingell. Today I'm going to show you how to install headlights and rear work light and tail light on your Ford tractor. This will apply to a Ford 9N, 2N, 8N, Jubilee, 600, 700, 800, 900, 2000, and 4000 if you have a 4-cylinder engine. So if you have one of those tractors, follow along. I'll show you how to troubleshoot if you have lights and they aren't working already, or how to install lights from scratch if you have no lights at all. Today we're using a 3-position light switch. The first position is off, the middle position will power our headlights, and then the last position will be both the headlights and the rear lights. When you get your switch, it comes all assembled like this, so the knob just simply screws off like this, and then there's a nut behind it with a washer. So I'll set both of these aside, and then you slip this down through the hole on your dash where the switch goes. Now, some of your tractors are going to have a hole like this already, and you're set to install this light switch. Some of your tractors won't have a hole in the dash for the light switch. So if that's the case, you just need to drill one. I measured this switch and it looks like about a 3/8 inch hole is going to be appropriate, but you could always, double check and measure your switch. So you'll tighten that up, and I'll use a wrench to make sure that it's snug and secure. And then we'll be ready to hook it up with the wire. So this wire here comes in the wiring harness kit for the headlights, and it just has 2 matching terminal ends. You are going to put one end of this onto your terminal block. Now this is an 8N with a side distributor. If you have an 8N with side distributor and newer tractor, you're going to find a terminal block just like this on your tractor. This is the side of the terminal block that connects here to the key switch. So that means that the headlights are only going to work when the key is on. That's just a safety so that you can't accidentally leave your headlights on and drain down the battery. So look for your terminal block and connect it to the same side as your key switch if you have a 8N or newer tractor. Once you put that wire on here, you just tighten up that nut on the terminal block, and then we'll go back to the switch. Let me just pop this back out of here so that you can see the back side of the switch. I should have hooked that wire up first. This terminal on this switch is the power terminal, and that's where you're going to connect the other side of this black wire. So you just connect that right there. There's a little screw, and then your switch will be all hooked up. If you have an earlier tractor, like an 8N with a front distributor or a 9N or a 2N, instead of this terminal block behind your dash, you're going to find this part instead, which we call a resistor assembly. This side should have the coil wire hooked up, and then this side should be where your key switch hooks up. Just like on this 8N side distributor, you're going to put that black wire that runs from the headlight switch onto the same post as your ignition key switch. If you have a Ford Jubilee or newer tractor, your light switch is going to go in a different spot. It's going to be right here. You are installing the exact same light switch and you hook it up to the terminal block just the same way I showed you on the 8N. Once you install your switch, just make sure that it's out of the way of any other wires or lines that are running in this area of the tractor. If you have a good 6-volt headlight that you want to work with and you just want to update it to a 12-volt sealed beam headlight, then I'm going to show you how. So this is a 12-volt sealed beam, and I would recommend testing your 12-volt sealed beam first. I have the other ends of these alligator clips hooked up to a battery on the floor, and I'll show you, you can just test it like this and see that your sealed beam works. This test works either direction. So you can do that. That'll help you as you're working down the road troubleshooting. If you do have an issue further on in your project, you'll know that the sealed beam isn't the issue. So that's the sealed beam bulb. Now we're going to talk about this headlight case. So this is a case that's in good condition. The wires inside, they were not, but we can update the wires and still be able to use this case. So inside the case, you have this little ground strap, which goes down here. Actually, first I'm going to put this wire through. This is your power wire that is going to later connect to the main harness on the tractor. And then this is your ground wire. It has a ring end and an open end. We're going to use the ring end, and it's going to go down here in the bottom of the case. So you line up the strap, and then you put this ground wire on top of it. There's a little screw here with a washer that you just set on top and screw that in. I'm going to get started by hand. And then you got to get this tightened up all the way. It's a good idea before you do this to sandblast the case. You can use a little piece of sandpaper to clean up all the contacts down here. This is essential. You have to have this grounded in order for your headlight to work. So take your time, make sure that you have a good clean ground connection here for in the future when you're hooking up your light. Now it's time to hook up the sealed beam. On the back, you're going to see you have two posts like this, and you connect one on each side. Doesn't matter which one's ground and which one's power. You can hook it up either way. When you do tighten this up, I like to make sure that the wire faces this direction. I found that that kind of helps them not to get pinched inside the case. So if you want to take that recommendation, you can as well. Get that really tight on there. Double check this side. Okay, now I have both wires running opposite end of each other, and now I'm ready to gently put this into the case. Try to not get them all pinched up in there. That looks good to me. Now, I personally like to pay attention to the direction of the sealed beam. I like to try to get that straight across, and then you're ready to put this beauty ring around the edge here. The beauty ring, you can see that I've got this closure going towards the bottom. That's so that when this tractor is out, if it's ever out in the rain, you're sealing this up so that rain doesn't get into the case of the headlight. So that looks good and even all around there. I got my beam a little bit crooked. Let me straighten that out. And then you just use this screw across the bottom to tighten that up. Be careful not to over tighten it, because if you do, you could damage your sealed beam. So you don't want to do that. So get that tight on there. There's a socket that goes on the bottom. I won't show that right now. Now, with that all situated, I'm going to do a double check on my headlight before I install it onto the hood of the tractor. So again, I've got these hot wires connected to a battery. I'm going to put my ground here. Just try to hold it there, and then I'll connect the power to this end. There we go. Oops. Let me try that again. There we go. Okay, now let's see. I got a little bit of paint on the post here, so I'm hoping I can get a good ground. Let me double check my battery's still connected. It is. Oops, I saw it. There we go. Okay, so I know that the light's working and I have a good ground inside of there. So now this headlight is going to be ready to put onto the tractor. Now we're ready to install the harness for the headlights. So you're going to see two bullet connectors and one ring connector. The ring connector goes up here onto the light switch. I have a light switch. This is the same switch that we put on the dash earlier, but I got it here so you can see it a little bit easier. If you look at the base of this switch, you'll see that these two are connected, and that's the side that we're going to use for the headlights. It's the first position when we pull the switch out to turn it on. So you can select either one of these terminals. You just remove the screw here, put the wire on through the post, just like that, and tighten it up. And then you'll be ready to run this wire up through the front of the tractor. So this is going to come down here, go all the way around, and then it comes up to the front and will attach to the two headlights. It is recommended to attach the wire right through here. You just want to make sure that it's not up on top where it could get pinched by the hood or anything like that. So make sure that it's out of the way. Leave yourself enough of a tail so you can reach the headlight. Remember, they are down a little bit. They're not right up here at the same level as the radiator. Again, as mentioned before, if you have a different model tractor like the Jubilee 600, 800 newer, your switch is going to be on the opposite side, but instead you just run it along the same way with your two ring terminals up towards the front, and then you're ready to put the hood onto the tractor. When you are ready to make this repair on your own tractor, you'll need some parts, and all the parts on this table in front of me are available on our website, which is farmtractorrepair.com. Let me show you what options you have so it all makes sense to you. Your first choice for kits is this headlight kit. So if you only want to put headlights on your tractor, this is what you need. You get two brand new headlights, the wiring for the headlights, the 3-position light switch, and a few clips to hold the harness out of the way on the tractor. That's your basic headlight kit where you can start. Then if you want to, you can also add some lights onto the back fender of your tractor. And for the back lights, you have two choices from us. This is the economy kit, which gives you the harness to go towards the back of the tractor. And then this is actually a headlight, which we'll show you can mount on the back of your tractor. Now, some of you who are perfect police will have a problem with this. However, we offer this because this is a very affordable option to get light on the back of your tractor. If you just want to be able to see at night to hook up a 3-point implement, this is going to do the job and it's going to be affordable for you. Now, if you do want something that's more original styled, we offer that too. This is the rear work light that has the on-off switch on it, and then tail light. This is the premium rear light kit, which comes with both of these lights, the harness, and then a few clips to hold the harness as you fish it to the back of the tractor. So you can choose either option for the rear light of your tractor, whatever is going to work best for your budget. Then we have a few other items that we sell individually. These are sealed beams. If you're switching from 6 volt to 12 volt, or if you just need new sealed beams for existing lights, you can purchase new 12 volt sealed beams. These are brackets for the back of your tractor if you end up needing them, and some fasteners. And then if you need a new key switch, terminal block, or resistor assembly, depending on what tractor you have, of course you can buy those on our website too. And this is an individual wire if you are going to rebuild your existing headlights by putting new sealed beams in them. There might be a chance you need to update this wire, and so if you do, we offer that on our site as well. Again, that website is farmtractorrepair.com. Now let's get back to work. I have both of my headlights connected, but as you can see, one is working and one headlight is not working. I'm actually kind of glad this happened because it allows me to do some troubleshooting with you, because you might run into the same scenario. So your headlight needs both power and ground. More often than not, when a headlight's not working, it's a ground issue, where the headlight grounds onto the hood, which is rusted, which is covered in layers of paint. So most often it's a ground issue through the hood. So in order to help me troubleshoot that, I have ran a set of alligator clips here, and the other end of this alligator clip is attached directly onto the ground of the battery. That gives me a good solid ground. Then when I do that, you can see I just removed the screw from the battery cable there. It started working. Look at that. Okay, and wow. Okay, so we have an issue here. This is an obvious issue because the ground wire inside the headlight here is disconnected. That's obvious to me once I took this apart. These are old headlights that have been on this tractor. I know it's a 12 volt bulb because this tractor's been 12 volt for a long time, but I haven't done anything to repair these headlights, and they're old ones. So this wire just came disconnected. When I reconnect it here, the light starts working again. And when I moved the sealed beam inside the case of the headlight bulb there, this just happened to touch and make a ground connection. So I don't need to use my alligator clip since it was obvious. But if that hadn't been something obvious, I could make an artificial ground, and that would tell me I have a ground issue. I do have power, I don't have ground, because once I make an artificial ground, my headlight starts working. You see that there? So if this wasn't obvious, I would know I've got a ground issue. This looks all connected well. I could test the sealed beam and make sure that's working like I showed you earlier. Then I would know I've got a ground issue within the hood. Sometimes just rotating the headlight a tiniest bit in one direction or the other is all that it needs to get a ground connection. So I hope that that helps you if you run into a situation like this to be able to chase down and figure out where the issue is with your headlight if it's not working. In your rear light kit, you get one wire like this that has the large ring terminals. That's your ground wire, and we're going to come back to that in a minute. First, we're going to run this wire. You look for this that has the bullet connector end, and I took the wheel off of this tractor so that you can easily see. If you think you can finesse your wire through, you can leave your wheel on, but it might be easiest to take the wheel off. Up to you. So what you're gonna do is you take this bracket off the other side, and then this connector will slide through here, and then you use this pin to hold the wire, and then it will secure into this hole, and then we'll open up the cotter pin to make it secure. If your fender doesn't have that hole, you probably want to drill one. That is really essential to keep the wire out of the way so that it doesn't get caught in the wheel or the tire chains or anything like that. So you can run both your ground wire and your wire for the headlight, your power wire, through that same pin there, and that'll be set. Your ground is going to connect here with the bolt later on, so you can just leave that out of the way. And then I'll show you the route for this wire. So it's going to come down here underneath the fender. Then you're going to trace it along the axle here. There's a clip right here in the bell housing. You remove this bolt and slide the wire through. You can purchase these clips if your tractor doesn't have them. Then back here, you will fish this underneath the spring so that it's out of the way. There's a second clip on the opposite side of the bell housing back here, which you'll see, or again, you can add it. Then when you come up this way, there is a hole in the transmission housing and the wire slides right through that hole, just like this. Then one more clip here on the transmission cover. One more hole through here. Then it slides back behind the dash and attaches to the light switch, which I'll show you here in a minute. I have the light switch removed again so that you can easily see. This terminal here, which is independent, this was the side we put the headlights on. This terminal is where you put the work light wire, and you run that wire onto this terminal no matter what setup of lights you're doing on the back of your tractor. I'm using an original bracket. This is a new socket, and this is a new headlight, which we've painted the correct gray color to match. Again, this is the headlight. So this is the economy kit if you just want to have a light on the back of your tractor so that when you're hooking up your 3-point equipment in the back, you can see a little bit easier. So that will just slide through there. And then on the back side here, you've got a regular washer and a lock washer and a nut. And you just tighten this up all the way. Here's my wrench. You get the idea. Once that's tight, then you swing it around this way, and the wires through here, you'll connect it just like that, and then use your fasteners to attach this here. Now, just like we saw before, this needs a ground, just like the headlights do, and you can put new fasteners here. You can clean up this surface area like we have, but also that ground wire is going to help to be sure to get a ground for this light. So that's pretty straightforward for the simple set. Now I'm going to show you how to put on the premium kit that will have both the taillight and the work light. I've switched, and now I have on my bracket a work light. This is a true work light that has the on-off switch on the back, and that's what we're going to put on this tractor. In addition to the work light, we're also going to put a tail light on top. So for the rear lights on your tractor, you really have a lot of options. You can go the economy route, just put a headlight back here. You could do only a work light that has the on-off switch, or you can do a combination of a work light and a tail light. Now on the bottom of this tail light, there is paint here. If you purchase a new one, you might need to remove that paint. It could be a little thick to give you a little bit of trouble with the ground. So if you just take a little bit of that paint off, it might save you some grief. And then if you look closely at the bottom of this light, if you can stick like a flat blade screwdriver in here to hold this fastener down, it'll help you get the washer and nut on the bottom of this when you go to attach it onto the bracket here. And then one more tip, before you put your tail light onto the bracket, make sure that you put this fastener in, because once the tail light is on there, it'll be hard to get this fastener in place. If you are putting two lights on the back of your tractor, you need this splitter, which attaches to the end of the work light harness, and that will give you two connections. You can attach the bracket onto your fender here, and when you do, this slides and tucks back in here completely. That's what this groove on the bottom of the bracket is for. So that's tucked back in there, it's protected, and then you put new fasteners and tighten those up. On the back side, we're using a ground wire. This isn't part of the original design, and maybe you wouldn't need it, but we found on our fender when we were working with this that ground wire really helped us get the ground that the light is going to require. So we're including the ground wire with your rear light harness, and you can go ahead and use it. There's two ends of the terminal, or two ring terminals. The smaller ring terminal goes on this end, and the larger ring terminal traces around here, follows the main wire. You can zip tie it with your axle and then just attach it right to the chassis here to get a good ground. Okay, I'm just hooking up these wires for my back two lights, and now I'm ready to see how it works. So if I turn my key switch on, then I pull the first position of the switch, I have headlights only, and then with the second position, my tail light is working, and my work light is also on. If I flip this switch off, then the work light turns off and the tail light stays on that final pull position on the switch. This is a really nice lighting setup for this tractor. We have not had a rear light on this 8N, and we use this 8N a lot. I'm really excited to have both of those lights on the back of this tractor for the way that we use it. I hope that this video is helpful to you and it gives you the confidence you need to fix the lighting on your tractor. When you're ready to do the project, you can buy the components and the kits on our website, which is farmtractorrepair.com. On our channel, we have loads of videos about Ford tractors. We show you how to rebuild the engine, the distributor, a 12-volt conversion, a carburetor rebuild, the hydraulics, etc. So if you need further help on your Ford tractor, please look through our channel. I know that you will find those videos to be a great resource to you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.